Hello and welcome back to Real Estate Center University right here on YouTube, where we try to bring you all sorts of different types of investment opportunities and of course education to go with it to understand exactly what is available out there for you and how you can best leverage your current portfolio and current asset and capital and deploy it in a way that you can be well diversified and as part of as many deals that you can be in with less exposure to markets, time, etc. With me today, I have none other than Mr. Darcy McConvey out of Greybrook. He is the Director of Operations there. Welcome, Darcy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here with us. We know you're a very busy man, and Greybrook is a spectacular outfit as far as we're concerned. We've worked with Greybrook for almost 7 years. Yeah. Back and forth as investors and strategic partners in many different projects, and to have you here with us today for you to shed some light as to who you are, how you operate, and hopefully bring value to our viewers and to people who choose to spend their time here with us today to understand yet another tremendous way of monetizing via real estate in a way that pretty much no one else does.
Yeah, it's a little bit unique.
So why don't you tell me a little bit about Greybrook? Who is Greybrook?
Yeah, sure. So Greybrook is what's called a private equity firm. Yep. So we actually have two groups. We have a Greybrook Healthcare Group and Greybrook Realty. So they're separate from each other. And so today, obviously, we talk about the Realty side. So Greybrook Realty partners effectively are sort of large-scale joint venture partners with sort of your tier one builder developers. So, you know, and what we have done is that we've created a vehicle whereby we sort of allow or give individual investors the opportunity to invest in some of the largest scale development in the markets we invest in, GTA, Greater Golden Horseshoe, and South Florida. And they invest as owners alongside the largest developers in these markets.
So let's let's stop it right there. So we make it very clear as to what this is.
Yeah.
So Greybrook partners with a developer and builder in putting together towers of housing and or 100 units, for example, of townhomes or low-rise housing. You create housing.
Correct. So it's all development based. So we're not buying, a rental property for cash flow. We're creating housing. You're right. So we would do either anywhere from 70 townhouse development in Markham, Woodbridge, Richmond Hill, Oakville, Hamilton.
And you're talking about the local market here in Toronto.
Yeah.
On our YouTube base is broadly based all over Canada and into the USA.
Sure.
So what I wanted to take out of this today is, of course, we can talk about the success that we've had here in Southern Ontario and Canada, but the actual vehicle itself is not limited to Canadians.
No, not at all.
At all. And the actual method of investing and kind of the recipe for success that you've created is something that I want everybody to be able to take away. Because the most important part is that you're playing in the arena of the biggest projects with the best people at the helm kind of thing. Exactly. So we're talking about real analysts, we're talking about real economists, we're talking about massive developers.
Sure.
And the individual investor is able to parlay their money with the smart money, per se.
100%. So it's a vehicle where really you're investing alongside and in some of the largest development in the markets that we're in. So our big markets are really GTA, Greater Golden Horseshoe, and then about 20% of our investments in South Florida. But to your point, it's not limited to the geographies that we're in necessarily. No. We're focused in those markets for various reasons. One, we're extremely familiar with both. A lot of our developer relationships are deeply ingrained in these two markets. There's sort of similar in terms of market maturity and sort of a renaissance period for the markets that we're in. Limited land supply and a lot of migration and immigration in the markets that we're in. So we feel like all the factors are at play. But I would say that this type of investing is. It's not like we've necessarily reinvented the wheel, but we've allowed a guy like yourself and myself to invest with the biggest and the best. So we've named off some of our our developer partners, which would be, Fieldgate, Tribute, Silvara, Metropia.
I know Citizen, Fernbrook.
Citizen. So these guys are our partners.
And these guys are really giants of the housing industry in our local market. They've built half the cities and communities that are being built.
Sure.
So it's nice to be on that same boat that they're sailing on, because we know the success of the Toronto housing market.
Yeah.
We know the way it's gone, and we know why. And I think you touched up on it a little bit. The housing boom that we've experienced in our local market, not that it's relevant to somebody who's in Texas or that's in Arizona, from a actual why is the housing here, it's relevant to them if they want to invest in something that works. It's relative if they want to invest in the Miami markets that you guys are really taking advantage of a huge supply issue, in putting that proper product together. Now, I'll recap this one more time, just to make it crystal clear.
Yeah, sure.
There's a piece of land right here. Doesn't matter if it's a cornfield or if it's an assembly of 2 city blocks downtown Austin. It means nothing. It makes no difference.
Sure.
The piece of land is right here. The piece of land is for sale. You already know what can be done on here, or do you have to, could this be an industrial piece of land and you're going to buy it anyways and speculate with my money?
No.
Or is it something that, what is your process? You look at this piece of land, we're going to build 6 towers on it. Where do you come in, and where do you get out? So, and the reason I ask that is, if you're raising capital to do this, which is my capital or his capital or her capital,
Sure.
the question is, where does it start? Where does it end? How long does it take? So take me through maybe a cycle of the cornfield in the middle of Austin.
So what we don't do is we don't take entitlement risk. So we're not buying a cornfield in the middle of the Field of Dreams.
In the middle of Austin.
If you build it, they will come. Like that's not our play here. So we're not taking what's called entitlement risk. So when we're buying a parcel alongside our developer partner, we know what the designation or the intended use for that is, and in most cases it's going to be a residential or mixed use component, low rise, mid rise, high rise, whatever it is, the density. So we're not taking entitlement risk. So to your point, if I'm an investor, yes, I want to know what my upside is, but more importantly, I want to know what my downside is. So we don't want to be taking downside risks that can be what we classify as terminal to your capital, meaning that your capital turns into a zero, which can happen if you're effectively taking entitlement risk.
Of course.
And so that's not what we want to do.
Nor do you want to be stuck in a project for 10 years while changing zone, official plan amendments, etc.
That's it. Because these things can be binary, either yes or no.
Of course.
Or take a decade.
Or you're investing into politics.
Yeah, for sure.
Because a lot of that, and I went, if you follow us on our Facebook page, you'll see a rant I posted yesterday about the Trans Mountain Pipeline out west and that whole Kinder Morgan fiasco, and how that's going to impact maybe a full generation of investors.
Sure.
Based on the outcome, based on politics, based on First Nation protests, based on fisheries industries. Like, there's just so many components.
Right.
In Greybrook, and just to bring it back now to this, so we're not going off on tangents, you do not invest in a project that's going to be tied up politically or otherwise.
No, so we're not taking entitlement risk, meaning we're not trying to rezone employment industrial lands to residential land, right?
Or high rise.
Or high rise or anything like that. So having said that, there's always a political component, and to be honest, if you have the deep connections in the areas that you're investing in, that being really strong partners and very good developers, builder developers, then that in some ways gives you a bit of an edge up against, what can be quite a bureaucratic process, to be honest. Like, there's a lot of there's politics in there as well. So you want to be able to at least give yourself the best chance of success across the board, right? In terms of planning and politics. But we're not taking these big risks because we're invested alongside as management and Greybrook itself alongside our investors. So, we don't want to be taking those risks on our
I definitely get it, but at the end of the day, someone can argue that you can take more risk than the next guy because you've been doing this for a long time or you've had previous success. But if I have, let's call it $50,000, what would make me give it over to Greybrook versus the next guy? What is your competitive edge with other private capitalists or a different type of real estate investment?
So, one of the points that I sort of was I think going to make earlier, and I veered off, is that we haven't reinvented the wheel. Like, this is how a lot of high net worth families have really been investing for a long period of time. You know, one or two ultra high net worth families backing a developer, and so this is not something new, but it's now something that more people can do. So why would someone want to invest? Well, I think a lot of people look at, you know, large scale development, high rise, detached homes, townhouses, and wish that in one way or another they could participate or be a part of that development in the manufacturing side of the development.
That's right.
which is building, versus the end user, where most people would invest in real estate, which is buying an income property or rental property outside of your primary residence. So it's just a way to capture quite large margins in development alongside some of the best builders. Like, these are multi-generational, you know, they build at scale, very efficiently. And so it's a way to invest alongside these in a real estate vehicle that's very different from what people generally think of as investing in real estate. The other thing I would say is that, you know, we do this on a project by project basis. So we're not a fund, meaning that we're not raising capital and then deploying it on behalf of our investors. We're doing it. They're almost like mini funds. So every project is a separate.
It's its own
equity raise,
thing.
is its own thing. So if you're a guy that wants to invest $50,000, to your point, you know, you have the opportunity to, one, pick the project, then you know who the developer partner is, the timeline,
The geography.
and what we're building. So maybe you only want townhouses, maybe you want detached, maybe you want high rise in the core. You
Remind me to speak about timeline, because that's important.
Sure. So you pick the project, you pick the partner, and you also, you know, one of the ways that we look at it is if you believe in the strategy, you have the opportunity to sort of build a portfolio, that being maybe invest in 2 or 3 projects, different geographies, different developer, different timeline, and so you sort of have a portfolio of investments.
So you can actually fully diversify yourself within this strategy, can't you?
Yeah, you can. So, you know, if you think about it, the fact that you can invest in multiple projects, you can be in a 2.5-year project, a 5-year project, a 7-year project, a townhouse project, a high-rise project, and a detached home project.
So this is one thing that I wanted to kind of really touch up on. You're diversifying in the sense, so let's talk about diversity. First and foremost, Greybrook is in the development and manufacturing of housing. They fund it, they partner up with real builders with real track records, the best in the business. And I'm not saying this with a question, because I already know I've been working with you guys for a long time. And I kind of really wanted to present this to our viewers, to our client base, to some of the people who really follow us and are sitting on the fence and they're looking for new vehicles. Mm-hmm. Now, as an investment strategy, you're diversifying into Greybrook to get into some of the futures, in my opinion, my personal opinion. Mm-hmm. And you correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to use the word speculation because it's the only word that I think fits into this type of investing. It is, in my opinion, still speculative, because you are investing in the futures. So as a principle, you're not buying bricks and mortars today.
Sure.
You're buying the opportunity to participate in an equity fund. I think it's probably the absolute smartest way to invest into the future of real estate.
Sure.
You're also partnering with the best people in the business with track records that would never go into a project blindly if they didn't think that there would be a successful outcome. Yeah. So I'm not in any way talking it down or looking at it as a gamble, but as a real estate investment, we're talking bricks and mortar and the security that real estate provides. It is probably at the speculative end of real estate. It's like buying pre-construction housing.
I think the way I would classify speculative is sort of what we talked about earlier, which is trying to take entitlement risk. So you're buying a farm for a discount and saying, I hope this one works out.
Yes.
So, you're definitely investing in the future, because you have to take that land through a process in many cases, and then ultimately you're selling the homes into a future market, which may be different than today.
That's right. So that's all I'm getting at. I'm not trying to make it doom and gloom by any sort. I actually tremendously am a supporter of this style of investing and the formula that you guys actually pioneered, because I think nobody else does what you do. or the type of due diligence that you do.
Sure.
And the fact that your outfit is regulated by the Ontario Securities Commission and not by some Mickey Mouse organization that used to regulate other industries like mortgages, etc.
Sure.
In Ontario, these were huge problems. There's been massive scandals by unregulated industries or poorly regulated industries where you guys are kind of at the top of the pyramid consistently with oversight by the strongest enforcer of rules in Ontario, Canada.
Yeah, I think that's important. Like, we're regulated across Canada and the U.S. And we have high compliance standards, right? So that's something that we take obviously very seriously.
No doubt.
And so that is an important thing for us, no question.
A couple more questions.
Sure.
Who is the perfect client to you? So if we have a couple thousand people that are going to see this video, who are you looking to reach out to, or who should be reaching out to you? How do you feel you best help a client succeed?
Yeah, sure.
Because we all get a satisfaction, of course, of seeing our clients succeed. What drives you? What are you trying to do? So you meet Jack and Sue tomorrow morning. What is your advice to them? Who do you want to see? What do you want to see them do? So what stage of life are they typically at?
Yeah.
And why do they want to be a part of your story?
Well, again, I think it's quite a unique way to invest in real estate. So it's not going to be your whole portfolio. It's going to be a percentage of your portfolio. So do I still think buying income properties and investing in real estate the way that, or multifamily?
Since time immemorial.
It's great. It's great. This would be a part of someone's portfolio. It's a very passive way to invest, meaning that you're not buying yourself a job like you do sometimes with income properties, having to fix toilets, light bulbs, and the rest of it. So I think it's an incredibly passive way to invest alongside, into projects that can generate quite significant returns. And again, it's only a percentage of your portfolio. So to your question, what am I trying to get at? One, I'm trying to understand a lot of things. So there's a suitability component to people investing. So I just want
because it is a security.
Yeah. So I want to understand if they have the ability to tie up their money for a period of time, because they need to be able to do that. So whether it's 2, 3, 4, 5+ years.
Great point. So is there a return? If I put in, let's call it $100,000 tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Am I getting a 5 or 6 or 8% return on my money?
No, you're not. So we project a 20% annualized return, which effectively is our goal is in every case to double investors' investment in 5 years or less. But you're not seeing that annually. So we call it an annualized return. It's just the total term, the total return.
Typical term? Typical.
5 years.
Typical return based on past performance. Not that it warrants or guarantees future performance, but what is kind of your guys' benchmark that you can say live on the record, we've performed on average at this rate?
Yeah, so I think there's a huge spectrum. There's a huge spectrum, all very good. But I'd say our projections have been extremely accurate, and in most cases, we've exceeded our projections. So will that always be the case?
And have you performed at around that 20% range, that high double-digit range?
We have.
That's phenomenal. Good job.
It's very good. So, but just to add to that, will that always be the case? Don't know. We're underwriting now as good as we ever have. We're seeing very good opportunities. We're alongside very good partners. So we have every expectation that we'll meet or exceed those projections in every case. But that's not a certainty. But historically, we've done extremely well.
Excellent. Well, the thing is about the living in the year 2018 and kind of how our mentality and civilization is evolving every day. There's not much you can say that's not going to be Googled.
Sure.
There really is not. Yeah. If somebody were to Google Greybrook, what's the first thing they would see?
Probably a link to our website.
Sure.
I think generally it's quite very positive. I don't know that I think they would see our website. They probably see maybe some other clips of us.
So I think that would be a challenge. Excuse me. I think that would be a challenge from the Real Estate Center University to anybody.
Yeah.
The people that we've partnered with in the past, the Real Estate Center University is an offshoot onto YouTube, but as a group, we're active brokers in the Toronto area in Canada, and we transact a significant amount of business every year, anywhere between 600 and 800 transactions along with our team. It is a ton, and we're very proud of our team that hustles hard every single day for their clients.
Yeah.
But we also assume a huge responsibility when we represent so many investors on a year-to-year basis, as to you, as a matter of fact, tenfold based on the volume that you guys put out there.
Sure.
Because you're not realtors, you're investors straight up. But we also broker business and kind of help people invest.
Right.
So it's a little bit different. But we all bear the same responsibility at the end of the day to the investor when we try to take on and take that leadership position. We lead by example because, of course, we're invested in projects with you. Our clients are invested in projects with you. You guys are invested in your own projects. And I think that speaks volume to the way deals and business is done. I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to come out of this to ask questions. Are you personally someone who is available to talk to people?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're always available, right? I think to your point, like we are very conscious of the fact that people are investing their money with us. So ultimately, it's a thing. They trust the manager and they trust us, and we've got to, and responsibility comes with that, right?
Yeah.
So you can contact me anytime. I don't know if you'll provide to the group my contact information.
Of course. So you can reach out to Greybrook directly anytime you want. This isn't a referral or selling service. This is a way to teach people to invest in real estate and kind of learn from the leaders in that business. There's many private capital firms just like Greybrook. Does everybody have the performance and history that you do? The answer is definitely no. Is there other great players in the space? Of course there is.
Sure.
Just like in any other space.
Yeah.
But we like to interview and bring value by bringing the best people in the business. If you are a first-timer, if you're a first-time investor looking to diversify into this type of investment, I hope you have found value in this interview, because I've covered probably 90% of the basic stuff one should know.
Definitely.
But there's definitely intricate scenarios, and well, actually maybe a huge one that we left out is the fact that this is registered fund eligible.
Yeah, it is.
And whether it's in the United States or in Canada, the United States Americans can invest with their registered funds.
Yeah,
Can they use their 401k?
They can, actually. So that's a relatively new thing for us, but they can. So in Canada and the US, you can invest cash through holding company or corporation, cash individually, or you can invest through a registered plan as well.
So the reason I want to bring that up, why it's important, is because typically your retirement funds are long-term holding funds that you don't see a return regardless.
Sure.
So let's say Mr. and Mrs. Smith are sitting on $150,000 in liquid capital in their account, but they have $250,000 in their registered funds. Whether they're in the United States with a 401k or in Canada with an RSP, it's still kind of the same regulation or similar to. And I don't want to get into the mechanics of it because it'll differ for everyone in every state or every province.
Yeah.
However, as a basic premise, this is a real estate play.
For sure.
It's registered fund eligible. You guys would be able to take anyone through the process as need be.
Definitely.
And if you're sitting on 150K liquid and you're not comfortable with not getting a return on that, you can put that in traditional real estate or other investments. But if you have $250,000 sitting in your back end with a potential to get a return of 20% a year, that's definitely something that you should be inquiring more about. And you're not going to put your whole $250,000. Obviously, there's an eligibility spectrum and
there
questions
is
where
for the individual.
That's right.
But I would say that generally, the longer term projects and the fact that a lot of these funds are locked in for a long period of time, it's a sort of a good match between the investment vehicle and then the opportunity.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I've been told the YouTube attention span is about 3 minutes. We're probably sitting at about 23 minutes. Apologies to all the attention spans out there. I want to thank you, everybody. I want to thank everyone who is viewing this, is sharing this, and is liking this. We do it 100% for you. If you have comments, if you have questions for Darcy, for myself, for my partner Jas Takhar, who is also involved in the podcast, is actually going to be on iTunes later today as well. You can get this, listen to this in the car via Jas's podcast and the Real Estate Center audio experience. You can see us here on YouTube, and we're going to be, of course, putting it through all social media channels. Darcy, I want to thank you once again for all your time.
Sure.
For bringing your wealth of knowledge and making the time to kind of educate people. If anyone who wants to reach out to Greybrook, you can always leave a comment below. Please subscribe to the channel by clicking the subscribe button below, and share this if you found value. Share it with your friends, your family, whoever needs to reach out. You can always get in touch with us at therealestatecenter.com. Check out Greybrook at greybrook.com.
Greybrook.com, or
And
you can email us at info@Greybrook.
info@greybrook.com as well if you have a question direct, but always reach out. No problems at all. Until next time, for the Real Estate Center, my name is Simeon Papailias, and on behalf of Jas Takhar and I, thank you, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, Darcy.
Yeah, no problem.